You're what, 40?
Yeah, so I'm 41 myself. Yeah.
And so my channel is geared towards mostly single men.
Yes.
And do you know anything about MGTOW?
Yes, I do. So I mean, I absolutely understand it. I mean, from my perspective, I can see why men feel, look, do you know what? Look, I just need to do things myself. I do not need the aggro. I do not need the difficulty that comes with toxic feminism and such. I am the victim of some levels of parental alienation myself, which is where some of my videos have gone down to the fact of my ex-wife having my two children and being very sparse with information, what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do. And so I get it. I get it with people, and it's a growing trend, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. So we're roughly the same age. Granted, you're on the other side of the pond. And I do shows occasionally with people from England. I befriended someone from England. He's a long time listener and follower. He's actually texted me now about some other stuff about a book he's reading. And I always took the assumption, and pardon my ignorance, I always felt that England was better off socially than the United States. I don't know what the divorce rates are in England. It seems that the divorce rate's not necessarily as high in the United States. Again, I do not know. But most men that I communicate with that live in England, they're either single or they are, in fact, in a long-term relationship. British women, the few that I've interacted with, seem to be much more grounded to reality than American women. They don't have this the Disney culture. There's less of the whole Princess and the Pea aspect of things where they're constantly looking for a flaw, a chink in the armor with whoever they are dating or married to. But again, that's just my little knowledge I know about the society as a whole in England. Again, I could be wrong. Now, you're saying you're recently divorced. Were there any? How long were you married? Let's start with that question. And is my assumptions about England correct or are they incorrect? What's your take?
Well, I'll start with that. I've literally just had a quick look, and the percentages of divorce with marriages in the UK is 42%.
42%.
So you're heading towards half. Now, in terms of my relationship, so I was with my ex-wife pre-marriage. We were together for 4 years. We were married for 5, and we got divorced 6 years ago. We have 2 children, and to be fair, compared to a lot of people, because I did used to run an Instagram channel which was aimed at parental alienation, and some of the horror stories I would hear from mostly America, especially this one particular guy who used to live out of his car,
a horror story,
because although he had a good job, the amount of money he used to have to pay for alimony and sort of child support meant that he had to not only live out of his car, but it also meant that when he did have his children, he would have to rent a room in a hotel each time, just so they had somewhere to sleep for the weekend. And my experiences with women in the UK, yes, there are, many women who are what you would like them to be. So, very much all about relationships, caring for their husband and such. But this is going to sound so trivial, but it really was the kind of the turning point for it. Around 96, 97, the UK had the explosion of what was called girl power. And this came about stupidly because of the Spice Girls. Okay. It was a pop band that came out. It was an all-female band or group, super group. And their entire message was girl power, you go girl. And all you ever saw were T-shirts with girl power and so on. And it kind of developed from there. And so what you tend to find now, very similar in America, is
it's insane.
women could do the same as men. They are equal to men, if not better than men. But then, so therefore, they want the career, they want this, they want that. But they're falling into the same traps as what American women are doing as well. They get into their late 30s, early 40s, and that maternal instinct is starting to kick in, and they're looking around at the crop of men, and they're just not there because men have just chosen to go along the lines of, well, do you know what? I will look after myself because it's not worth the rejection. We have exactly the same as you guys in the respect of, oh, this guy approached me. He was being nice to me. He's a creep. Here, let me put him on social media so everybody can see. So I think men in the UK, very similar to the US, have just not bothered anymore. They've just decided, no, I'm not having this. I'm just not going to put in the effort. I will look after myself, which is why gym memberships are up, supplements are up, because men are actually more focused on looking after themselves as opposed to trying to look for a partner.
Right on. So yes, there's a whole appendage to the maxing, the gym maxing, finding a niche to better yourself, whatever. Try to basically the hustle, the grind culture, as I like to call it, which to me it's a bit of a false start, because I think a lot of men distract themselves from what it is they do want, which is to get laid. Money's great and everything, but if you're not getting your dick sucked, it's like, why not live in a small studio flat on an air mattress with a pile of books and a good Wi-Fi connection. And this is something that's come to my realization, and I always knew it was always a thing for women to gravitate towards men who really have nothing going on, shit kickers. But what I've noticed is that women tend to hook up with these men because they have a lot of free time to dote on them, attention-wise, whereas men such as myself and probably you, we don't necessarily have that free time to be texting and calling and messaging and doing all that type of jazz during a work day. I was told by my mentor, like, listen, when a girl messages you or calls you during the day, simply ignore it, because you're busy doing your own thing and trying to better yourself and whatever it is you're trying to obtain or achieve. Women don't necessarily like that. So there was a post on X, like a guy threw up a photo of, again, an air mattress and just a shitty fucking room, and he was making a point that this is who you're losing to, the guy that lives like this. And it's funny because the last situationship I was in, she found me exactly in that type of state. I was living in my friend's dad's basement. I just relocated back to New York after spending a couple of years living down south, and I was totally embarrassed. Like, I am not prepared to be in a relationship in this state, but she was okay with it. As soon as I started to better myself and buy a better home, start making more money, she slowly drifted further and further away from me, which I thought was kind of interesting, because I've dated women from other cultures who would see that as a positive. So like women from Brazil or from Asia, they're like, good, I picked a guy who can be a pretty good donkey for me. Right, you see what I'm saying? But the general coddling of women, there's the social safety nets, their jobs and such. They have the ability to be in relationships with guys who they can manipulate and control, because they don't necessarily have all that much going for them.
Absolutely. Well, they want simps. That's all it is. They just want the simp who, yes, dear, no, dear, 3 bags full.
Right, you're not allowed to say no to anything. Everything's wonderful. Everything's perfect. You're not allowed to talk about whatever your problems are, which is kind of alarming, because you kind of want to be in a relationship with someone who you can share some of your, let us say, deeper thoughts. But it's soon men must realize at whatever age, the less you speak, the better off you are, which is damaging because a lot of guys don't want to have that kind of relationship unless it's just on a superficial level. But again, I think the overriding majority of women prefer a relationship on just a superficial level.
Yeah, and I think when you do actually have people who find a person who they should be with, you will find that the relationship is made up of both of them sharing and giving and working as horrible as it sounds, because I always think it sounds corporate, but working as the team. Okay. It is just, because they both within the relationship bring what it is that they specialize in, and the two do make the whole, hence why then it's the best setup for children and so on, rather than having single mothers and so on. But yeah, you are right, there seems to be a shift towards this sort of matriarchal style relationship where actually, do you know what, it's the woman in charge, and all he's good for is just fixing things. And I don't know about you guys over there, but there's been something that people have noticed for a few years now, that when it comes to commercials on TV, and the guy is always deemed as this idiot, this sort of buffoon who doesn't know how to do anything, and the woman is always the reasonable one and the sensible one and the one who rolls the eyes and so on like that. And there's just this continuous portrayal of men as just less than.
It's a misandry in the media. There's a great channel that's dedicated to the commercials over the past 20 years, where he goes through a litany of commercials showing general misandry, whether it's in commercials or on soap operas and comedy shows, where the Homer Simpson types.
Yes.
Right. Yes. There is a lot of that. And the man is not more this dominating, stoic character as you would have seen portrayed in movies and televisions of, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's just conditioning. And it's just for every new generation that comes up, they get to see this and they're just reminded, well, if you're a woman, you're in charge, remember, because look at these buffoons that you're living with. And I can see that's why men decide to go, do you know what, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not playing the game if it's rigged. And good on you, because ultimately, why would you play a game that's rigged against you every angle from society? So I know that it's certainly a dangerous game to play, and I think that's why you're finding more and more people are following sort of MGTOW and that kind of side of things. Why would you want to play?
So let me ask you, were there any telltale signs prior to the divorce? I mean, it's more of a personal question. If you don't want to answer it, I totally get it. We're total strangers. We just started talking.
No,
but was there do you think when you put a ring on your spouse's finger, did that change dynamics at all? Were you kind of just coasting along? Was there any telltale signs a couple of years prior to that you felt that you were in somewhat of trouble?
I would, if I'm being 100% honest, after we got married, it was like nothing changed. Nothing seemed to happen. It was like we went from one day to the next. So actually, from the early days and probably until about 3/4 of the way through, not a problem whatsoever. The actual issue started when we had our first child, and there's no denying that we felt that my ex-wife had postnatal depression, but she refused to get help for it. She refused to admit that she had an issue in the first place. In fact, she was very aggressively against it, despite the fact it was obvious that she had issues. But she became very possessive over our child. I wasn't allowed to do anything. And as time gone on, she kind of calmed down a little. We ended up having our second child. But I think the overall feeling that I got from everything was I'd done my job by providing children, and that was it.
The incubator. You were the incubator.
Yeah, I'd served my duty, shall we say. So, and the crux of it was, when it came to a crescendo, was I essentially had a breakdown. And so what happened was, and I don't mind sharing this, one particular day I got so down about everything that when I was driving home from work, as I was driving along, I was looking at things on the side of the road and deciding amongst, to myself, which of these should I aim my car at to finish myself. Thankfully, obviously still here. So what I'd actually done was I pulled over and I phoned the UK Samaritans to sort of speak to them, and they said to me, they helped me out and they said, look, you need to speak to your doctor straight away because obviously this is a breakdown, you need help. And I remember going to the doctor, and he was very concerned about me, and he said, do you want me to phone your wife? And I said, yes, if you could please. So he actually phoned my wife there. Now my ex-wife had a distinctly loud, nasally voice, okay? So I could quite, easily hear what she was saying on the other end. And he basically said to her, we've got your husband here, but he's not been very, we think he's had a breakdown and he's going to need some help, but I just wanted to let you know. And it just sounded like a normal conversation when she responded, like he hadn't just told her that her husband's just had a breakdown. It's like a normal chat.
What the fuck?
I came off the phone and I came home and I'm just in bits, I've just gone through this moment and it's embarrassing as well, but also I feel like I'm broken. And I go home and instead of having my wife go, oh my God, are you okay? What happened and all that? She didn't speak to me. And she was in the lounge and she just wasn't talking. And eventually I kind of said, well, why are you not, what's the matter? She went, well, why didn't you phone me first? And so instead of having used this as a moment of your husband, who you're, in sickness and health and all that, you've just found out that they've had a breakdown. Instead of actually comforting, you've decided to use that as an opportunity to begin an argument, to gaslight about, well, why didn't you phone me first? Why did you phone the Samaritans?
Well, you did not want to burden her.
Well, to be fair, I was wanting help, as in like professional help to begin with. And it kind of just snowballed from there, and it just gradually got to the point where it just wasn't going to work. And I had to make a very difficult decision because at the time when we separated to begin with, my oldest was 2 and my youngest was about 6 months. But it was a difficult decision that I had to make as to whether I was going to have to leave the family home or I was going to leave this realm. And I thought, and neither one was very attractive to me, let me be honest. But obviously I decided to leave the family home and I had to move in with my parents, which nobody of any adult age wants to have to do, to move back in with their parents. But I certainly didn't, but that was the best option I had. Excuse me. And the breakdown then just continued from there. And this was somebody who said to me, should we ever break up, I'd never be one of these people who uses the children as weapons and all that. And yet she turned around and was exactly that. I've been through hell since then with her in regards to the children. It's not been easy. I wouldn't say it's okay now, but you have a little sense of acceptance about how things are. But it's really burnt me. It's really, I mean, I am now in a relationship again, but she's fully aware that I do have my hesitations about things because of how much I've been burnt in the past.
So you jumped right back into a relationship, so no respite.
It was a while. It was a good while. But she's fully aware of everything that's happened. She understands what my ex-wife is like. She sometimes I have to calm her down about her as opposed to me. But in terms of marriage, it's a difficult one because I did have a video up I put up on YouTube where I sort of said, look, there is plans for marriage, but I'm a little bit burnt about this, and it's just amazing that the crowd kind of splits into two of, well, not everyone's the same. You should marry her, and then this half is going, don't do it. It's interesting how the populace kind of split down the middle when it comes to relationships and marriage, especially if you've gone through it already.
Well, I think the last relationship I was in more recently, the past year, again, I'm 38 and I tend to just attract women that are older than me. It's never my age or anything younger, which is kind of strange. Again, it's mostly women that have been rode hard and put away wet, as the people in the rural parts of the United States would say in the countryside. But the last I guess they call it situationship now. It's a terrible term, but she wanted more of me, and I was kind of explaining to her, because after the last one previous to that, I realized that this is all it's going to be. It can't lead to marriage. It can't lead to children because your age. I can support you as best as I could, but this is it. I'm now more steadfast in my own way than I was a couple of years ago. And as you get older, men become much more set in their own way, and they're less willing to bend to whatever a woman's demands are, or what her expectations of a relationship are, because you've now gone through the gambit. You understand what it's about. If it's not going to lead to at least a merging of finances or families, there's really no point in going any further than that. If that,
how much
makes
older
sense.
were we talking, by the way, Nick?
Let's see. The last one was 7 or 8, and the one prior to that was, I think, 6. So I'm 38, and again, they're like 43, 44, 46. It's just, hey, listen, the last one had a kid. He's already in college. She was getting kind of adamant about me meeting her son. Son's 19 years old. Well, I want you to really meet my son. I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. Well, why not? Because I know what's going on in a 19-year-old's mind, and it's not a good idea for me to meet him. She could not comprehend that. I was like, maybe when he's a little bit older, depending on how this situation flows. And I decided to take a much more, I pulled the throttle way back on putting labels on a relationship, meeting family and such, where in times past, it was more important for me to have my family vet this person. You see, if that makes sense. I'm Italian. I'm from New York, so everyone in New York is much more, more culturally bonded per se. Not fully, but your family still has some expectations, and your family certainly does judge you. In the air quote white America, the gentrified types, the people that vote Democrat. That's no, it's whatever you want. If you love each other, you just do it. Like, no, that's not necessarily, that's not how I was brought up. You're going to meet my mom, you're going to meet my grandparents. And of course, your family wants to know if you're in a relationship or not. And I vote, despite, numerous casual relationships, very, very few women have ever met my family. And then it leads to a bunch of questions and such. But circling back to the whole marriage side of things, at least in the United States, the marriage as an institution is dead, especially for the middle class. It's becoming a status symbol. If you take you've traveled the United States, but if you take a look at who is married now, women are jockeying for position, for status. So if they marry a guy, it's to show, hey, this guy has some either popularity, or owns a business, or he has a lucrative job. That seems to be what women are striving for. Not necessarily, again, merging finances, working together to build towards an agreed future. And, you know, a lot of women will always ask on a date, like, well, where do you see yourself in 5 or 6 years? And I'm like, 5 years ago, uh, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly where I am 5 years from now, because 5 years ago from now, I was in a completely different state of affairs. I was a totally different person. I can't necessarily tell you where I envision myself in 5 years, because the future is unwritten. I mean, right now we got what's a liter of petrol by you right now? You know what I mean? So you can't. You were going. I know you were ranting about it recently, but
Yes.
yeah, again,
reputation for this motherfucker.
fast forward more 20, 30 years from now, I'll lay out what I would like to be retired, perhaps in another country. I don't envision myself staying in New York when I'm in my 60s, but hey, who knows? But women want to vet you per se. If you're a beta, middle of the road guy, not really, you don't have time to be at the gym. A guy who just is constantly working and trying to battle demons throughout the day, which women don't necessarily understand what a guy's like throughout the day, because women don't have these type of battles. Usually their battles are against other women. That kind of a little bit of a rant, but I'm kind of really like been focused on this situation where women tend to gravitate or hook up with men who have absolutely nothing going on for themselves, who don't have a pot to piss in, who live day to day. They have no savings, sweatpants, Crocs. I mean, I was out to a comedy show last Sunday with my brother, and you see a woman, she's got to be 7, 8 months pregnant. She's dressed up really nice. And I'm with my brother. We're looking at this, and she's with this Pajit who is literally dressed like a homeless person. And we're just listening to the conversation between the two of them, and we're like, this guy is just a complete pushover. Like she's obviously insufferable. No average guy of her kind would ever tolerate listening to this woman drone on about the baby's room and the money being spent and what are we doing later. It's just like the average guy is not going to have the bandwidth to tolerate these type of demands and these this diatribe of just utter nonsense, because on the grand scheme of things it truly does not matter. It's more in the material, and to kind of bring it to a head, it just that women cannot accept a guy who has some type of edict or code, moral code, where this is right and this is wrong. Pragmatism, it's just got to be go with the flow. Whatever she wants, she gets. And kind of that's, in a nutshell, that's where the West is in currently in the Anglosphere. It's kind of this borderline personality disorder that's ruminating across Australia, Canada, the United States, and England for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we are experiencing here are, for those that are wanting to get married, they don't want to get married for the reasons that people used to want to get married.
Yes.
40, 50 years ago. They now want to be Instagram married.
Right. Yes.
So here's me with my luxurious lifestyle or quite nice lifestyle. None of the photos have my other half in it though, because he's busy at work funding this. Or like you said, if they're just in the dating side of things, they just want the wet plain canvas that they can control and color as much as they want. And the thing is, the only people like you and I would not find ourselves with people like this, because if someone was like speaking to me like they do, you and I would be the kind of people who would say, who the hell are you talking to? Okay, because I would not have it. But they have all been fed this diet from society, media, whatever it might be, of you should have whatever you want and he should provide it for you. And then it's like, okay, well, what are you providing for him? Well, me.
Right.
You know, that's all I am providing because
Did
that
you see
is
your grandmother? Because eventually you're going to.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I think women have just been lied to, and I do feel
Yeah.
sorry for them because ultimately, you know, they have been you know, a story that isn't true. And women are able to bring so much more than they currently do, but they've just been told they don't have to. And all I would say to that is that why do you think when there are actually women who do everything that their parents used to do or their grandparents used to do, they end up usually married quite early? Because, funny enough, they're quite attractive to a man who wants a proper relationship and a marriage. These ones that are still swimming around in the 30s and still going to parties and this, that, and the other, there's a reason they're not married. And it's
Right.
not just because they've chosen not to be, it's because nobody wants them.
Right.
But no, that's not the reason. It's because I'm a strong, independent woman, don't you know? Well, okay, fair enough. Let's ask you again when you're 45, 48, and you're on TikTok crying because I have no children. I really like being on my own, but I don't like being on my own. I wish somebody was here, because that's all you ever see now are these middle-aged women in tears saying, I've made a mistake.
Yeah, but you think that's? I see. I actually don't know if that's true. I feel that I feel the right side of politics tends to promote these videos ad nauseum, and I don't necessarily think that is all the case when it comes to women that are again post-wall, as they say. In my opinion, women that are past 40. One, their sexual drives tend to dissipate after a certain age, and they prefer not having men whatsoever in their orbit. Hence, circling back to what I was saying earlier, is that when they do have sex, it's with a guy who has absolutely nothing going on for himself. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They phone in and listen. They can get cock anywhere. They can, you know, that's you just a swipe on an app and they've already matched with the guy who's matching with the half of New York City. They can just go ahead and hook up with that individual and keep it as superficial as possible. Despite him being again in the past, again, you don't even have to go that far back. Other men would ostracize, the family would ostracize and tell their daughter, and their brothers would say, no, you're not hooking up with this guy. He has a criminal record. He doesn't have a job, and he sells loose packs of cigarettes to scrape by to buy something off the dollar menu at McDonald's, even though there's not a dollar menu anymore, but you get my point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the crucial part there is that you could say, well, the reason that, you know, however many years ago they wouldn't do it is because obviously they would have to tell their dad.
Right.
Nowadays, where is the dad?
Right.
They're not there. So
exactly. And also the boomer father in the United States was emancipated. You know, he was defanged with the help of divorce court. With the simple call, pick up of the phone. What in the UK? What is it? 99999.
Yeah,
what is
999,
it?
yeah.
Right. It's I only know that because of a Clash song. It's you know, in the United States it's 911. She can just dial 911 and say whatever the fuck she wants into the telephone, and he has the chance of getting killed on his front lawn that he pays for and he mows for, and that scared a lot of men because they've built up this life and they don't want it to be taken away from them, as in your case.
Yeah, it's the power dynamics there is completely skewed. I mean, I was recently speaking to somebody he's in a lot worse situation than me in terms of his parental alienation from his own children, and he literally has something in court that's all been agreed with. I don't even know how, that he's not allowed to post photos of his own children on social media.
Photos.
And it's like, I said to him, how can that be the case? Well, because she wants me to not put up photos of the children because it will obviously be photos of me and the children, and obviously they're happy, and she doesn't want anybody to see that they've actually been happy when they've been with me. And the courts have signed off on this. And I was like, how on earth have we got to a society where a court won't even let a father post photos of his own children on his own social media? That is just, it just shows you the power dynamic that has just completely changed in not only society but legislation, you know, the judicial system, which is absolutely fucked at the best of times. So I just couldn't believe it, and I had to speak to him about it. And then you think, well, what chance has anybody got then, really?
Well, it's on a societal level, it benefits whatever you want to call it, ruling class, the shadow people, shadow government. There's a litany of terms you can label those in power, but it benefits them that the family unit gets eviscerated because it's more power to them. You have you got Africans on dinghy boats going over to England now, which is you're on a fucking island. Like how does this even happen? Right. So how does that even transcribe? In the United States, we don't necessarily have those type of problems as Europe, because Europe is much more, it's more densely populated. You're British. That's it. There's no other, you can't mince words. In the United States, some dude from Pakistan, he sticks on a lapel pin and he's wearing a football jersey. That's it. He's American, right? So in America, we tend to, we're not multicultural, multi-ethnic, and that's what I try telling people outside of the United States. It's more of a multi-ethnic empire. It's not multicultural. So you'll bump into someone from whatever Tibet, and they're pretty much fully aware of who George Washington is. They'll exercise their freedom of speech. They'll buy a gun, etc., etc. Europe, not necessarily the case. When I lived in Southeast Asia, I remember you know, everyone was European. There was very few Americans, and I was like, well, you know, he's Italian, you're German, you're kind of the same. No, we're not the same. Don't you ever say that. Please do. Right, you know, so you tend to realize that it's much more segregated on those grounds. We do have segregation in the United States, but there's more of a bleeding over in some regards with class and with different races and ethnic groups.
You guys have more of a like a north and south kind of divide as well, don't you?
Well, I would say Midwest, West Coast, East Coast, New England, and then the South. That's more the crux of it. You know, from you go from Washington D.C. up to Boston, it's relatively the same. Some dialectic, maybe there's a little bit of cultural differences, but generally speaking, from here to Philadelphia, it's the same. From Boston to New York City, it's really the same. You go a little bit further north, it gets different. But, you know, I've lived 12 hours by car in North Carolina for 2 years, and there was striking differences and cultural shocks for me coming from New York and then going down south. But in the United States, people tend to run away from politics and not necessarily for culture, where it should be the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, New York, I mean, don't even get me started with New York. I mean, I'm surprised you're still in there, to be honest, with everything that's going on.
I came back. I couldn't stand the South, to be honest with you.
How is your mayor getting on? Is he doing that?
Surprisingly, listen, I'm actually not a big Mamdani hater. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything out of the norm. It's still early on as far as his him being elected, but maybe the past 20 years, it's come to my realization that a New York City mayor is nothing more than a real estate broker. And the past two, maybe three administrations, it seems to be more heavily weighted in the movement of real estate. And he's trying to correct it in some regards, but he doesn't realize, or maybe the caviar left don't seem to grasp that you can pick up a business and go to Texas now. You don't necessarily have to stay in New York. So if you want to tax people that own second homes and they don't reside in New York City, that's going to have a great deal of ramifications. Even though I'm in favor of that, I understand what the outcomes and what that might transcribe in the long run, which will be a bit of an economic disaster. I looked up recently that in actually maybe stay right there. Hang on, I might still have it up. Stay right there. Stay. Hang on. I just looked this up. Wait, fire economy. Okay, so in 1950, about 50 to 60% of New York City jobs were in manufacturing. In 2025, it's less than 3%. So that kind of gives you a bit of a synopsis on what seriously drives New York City, which is, again, real estate. I mean, they're hammering away at developing Rikers Island, which is currently a prison. And of course, wouldn't it be great to throw up condominiums on Rikers Island overlooking the city of Manhattan? But where are you putting all these prisoners? So one reason why COVID was so bad in New York City was, well, you tore down a good portion of the hospitals to make way for rental buildings and, again, high-end condominiums. And I'm seeing this
do
more
the same
and
stuff.
more as a lucrative business model where you have these empty apartments that are just vassals to ride out inflation and to in a way to protect whatever wealth you have.
Well, the problem is that you end up with a city that's just not got any New Yorkers in it. Because if the New Yorkers if any of them are working class or anything like that, they can't afford to be in New York, so they leave. So what do you end up with? You end up with the tourists, and you end up with the people who are probably not from New York who have got money.
Yeah, I think 40% of Queens County is now foreign-born. And you had a lot of the boomers, again, selling it to some guy from wherever. It's mostly from far Asia or the subcontinent, Trinidad and the Caribbean. So they come in, they have large families, they're all residing in a home that's got 4 or 5 bedrooms. They all pool their money, right? They all stay married, they all know their neighbors, more or less what previous immigrants from the United States were about. So it's become, and I don't want to get too off topic, but this is good stuff. I view New York City as a death cauldron, where you come here, and for most immigrants, that's where they want to first stake their claim, because if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And they come here, the first wave works, Uber Eats, taxi drivers, day laborers, what have you. They pop out 4 or 5 kids. The wife doesn't. The immigrants could give a shit about status unless they're Russian or Eastern European. They're doing it for the family. They're doing it for the kids because they want their children to have a better life. Eventually, the children do pretty well academically. They're going to some college that's 4 or 5 hours away from New York City. He winds up getting a really good job wherever it might be. It's usually Texas, Florida, or Virginia, Washington, D.C., some type of government procurement. And they start, building a life for themselves in those locations. And eventually the immigrants move to those locations, and then another wave of immigrants come in to buy that house. That's been kind of the model of New York over the past 20 years.
Yeah, so in a way, it's almost lost its soul, because the soul would have been for all those families that have been there for generations and generations. I understand people come and go, but it's very similar to London, because what you tend to find with Americans, especially who come to London, is that it looks like London. It looks like it does in the pictures, but where are all the Londoners? You know, where are all they? Well, they're not there.
Yeah, have you ever heard of Paris syndrome?
Yes.
Yes. It's probably very much the same way. And New York is certainly that. And New York is certainly, to a point, has a bit of that Paris syndrome. A little bit different. So again, it's 5 boroughs. Manhattan has turned into the suburbs. And I've talked to other fellow native New Yorkers, and you have this, I don't know, are you familiar with Whole Foods or Trader Joe's?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of the Whole Foods, Trader Joe's crowd that have
a little bit more upmarket, shall we say?
Right. Yeah. Well, Whole Foods for sure. Trader Joe's LARPs to be like Whole Foods, but you have a bit of that going on in Manhattan. And I remember with my brother. My brother is a bit of he's a bit of an entertainer. He sees these tourists from Europe, and he was like, "Oh, let's give them a show. Let's give them like a real New York show." He's like, "Oh, what the fuck you doing?" He's like fucking trying to fight me, and they get their cameras. I was like, "Oh, look, real New Yorkers fighting," kind of a thing. "Oh, go fuck your mother," all that type of shit. So you don't necessarily get that same vibe as you were again 20 years ago. I remember like going to Manhattan with my friends when we were still in high school, and it still had a little bit of that feel. You did not have the gentrification. It was not a college party town, which is something I've seen more or less now that I've relocated much closer to New York City, and now I'm frequenting New York City much more often, and I'm just driving around and frequenting bars and stuff, and I'm like, why is everybody in their 20s here? When I was growing up, it was mostly like old people, like guys in their 40s and 50s, with really nothing going on. You'll bump into some old wench who'll blow you, just to giving her attention. You don't have necessarily any of that anymore, and it's more
you do have a thing for older women, so
right. So you have more of this posh, cosmopolitan, very polished type of individual LARPing on Instagram. Those tend to be the people who now live in Manhattan, or they're just either on welfare, Section 8, or rent stabilized housing. Again, you go on New York City subway, it's not something you would want to necessarily do, but that's kind of where the unwashed masses use that for transportation. And again, the Instagram, the tech bros, the finance bros, they'll be the ones driving around being chauffeured in an Uber.
Absolutely. And there's so many similarities between London and New York. I mean, there's ties between the two cities anyway, but there's your historical buildings, you've got your landmarks, there's supposedly a New York way, there's a London way, but a lot of these are all perpetrated from films, movies, and it's only until you've got boots on the ground and you actually are walking around that you realize this is nothing like it's purported to be. Like nothing. It's either this is the uber rich, which are always without beyond reach of what you could ever achieve, or you've got the dirt poor, okay, or any kind of immigrant from every nation around the world. The only thing I will ask you, though, that there is a massive problem with London that we have you have particular enclaves in London of certain, like you have a Pakistani area, you'll have like a Caribbean area and whatnot, where they all just, instead of mingling amongst each other, they all tend to stay in their own little groups. Is this a New York thing as well, or is that just more a London thing?
No, New York City and New York as a whole, including the suburbs of New York, it's the most segregated place in the world. So you have these pockets of different ethnic groups, German, Polish, they tend to gravitate towards one another. For one reason or another, Albanians tend to follow Italians because a lot of them are bilingual. So wherever the Italians go, Albanians tend to uh,
What?
like a pilot fish. Oh, look, Italians are here. I'm Albanian. Can I hang
Yeah.
out with you guys? And,
What?
yo, we're like family. It's like, yeah, I get it. I get it. World War II, you guys threw ticker tape parades when the Italians invaded. I get it. You got Greeks and such. But it's not in this. It's probably very different than London because I don't necessarily think in London you have the ability to become more economically upwards. So in New
Mm,
York, if you just meet the right person, if
yeah.
you say the right thing, you have a better chance, regardless of where you're from, to better yourself.
Mm,
So in the business world, it doesn't necessarily make a difference whatsoever wherever you're from. There's not much of a segregation as far as monetary gains are concerned. In London, I would imagine there's a much more of a stopgap where, all right, you're this, you're not coming into this industry. Oh, you're this, you can't. Uh, well, I take that back. There is a lot of that in New York, but I would imagine there's more friction money wise in London per se amongst ethnic
yeah.
groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, to be fair, with the sort of incentives of DEI and so on, actually, you're probably more inclined to be able to get more money purely because of
Yeah, but
your
that's more of corporate. That's more
yeah,
again. That's
yeah,
more like if it's a publicly traded company, that would
mm,
be more or less the case. For example, the Bengalis have cornered the Minute Maid market. So the
yes,
person that's writing me a ticket is always someone from Bangladesh.
yeah,
Waterproofing companies tend to be owned by people from Pakistan or India, and then they
mm,
hire illegal day laborers to do waterproofing jobs. So
mm.
the engineers tend to be Greek or Colombian.
Okay.
Right, so there tends to be nepotism on that front, but as far as the day-to-day decision making, it would tend to be native New Yorkers.
Right, right, absolutely. Um, it's the thing is it's a
Thing is,
situation that is difficult to navigate because London is synonymous around the country, as is New York as well. But it's especially for London, it's from a ghost that a memory that doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It just doesn't
Well,
exist
all
anymore.
these cities, wherever you may go, they all look the same. They're all
Yeah.
interchangeable. Hence, what I was saying earlier about how it's become somewhat of the suburbs. It's heavily regulated. Insurance
Mhm.
markets has really kind of taken the quirkiness out of day-to-day drudgery. You don't necessarily see anything crazy like, whoa, look at that building. Hey,
Mm.
there was an accident over there because of, again, some type of law that was never passed to stop
Mm.
from something from a garage park collapsing or a lot of that is somewhat changing in poorer neighborhoods because the overregulation, poor people don't necessarily have the ability to battle such regulations. And the police, post
Yeah.
COVID, have somewhat taken a much more hands off approach with abandoned cars and such, if that
Mm.
makes sense. And you can,
Yeah.
like, if, for example, I know this Colombian girl, not supposed to be in the United States legally. She's wasted. She just crashes into a bunch of parked cars. And what are the police going to do? She's not here supposed to be. She's not supposed to be in the United States.
Mm.
So they just let her go. But
Mm.
for someone that was born in the United States, you can't necessarily get away with that.
Well, I mean, the UK is very much at boiling point. I think I don't know how much Americans are aware of this, but there are so many talks of civil war, or potential civil war breaking out, because we, as a nation, as a people, and yes, we are a people, despite how many people, how many agencies and all that try to say that there are no such thing as English people. Say no more. We are frustrated with the way that things are going, but I don't know what time when this video will go out, but tomorrow, so Saturday the 17th of May, there is actually a huge protest happening called Unite the Kingdom in London.
This is 1 year old
place. And the last time that happened, there was the best part of 1 million people attended it. Now, what's quite interesting about that is that anytime the media reported on it, they downplayed it to 100,000, which is always quite interesting. They sort of go, oh, no, it was only 100,000 people there. Well, you only had to see with your own eyes. There was more than that. However, they've also deemed it okay that there is also going to be a pro-Palestine march in London tomorrow as well. And as has come out, they have announced that actually they are going to use facial recognition for only the Unite the Kingdom march, not the pro-Palestine march, which in itself leads into this two-tier sort of system that we currently are living in this country.
Yeah, so again, I've heard a lot of these rumblings, but don't you think just because there's still the electricity and water running and there's bread, I tend to think that nothing will amount. It won't amount to anything just because of just the sheer comfortability of living per se in England. That's my 2 cents. There might be a protest here and there, some scuffles with police, and some Anglo dude fighting off some Punjabis, but we saw that, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and eventually just dissipates.
What you tend to find with the English is that we are a sleeping giant. We tend to allow things to happen to a certain point, but then history will tell you that if we want to pop, we will pop.
Right.
And when it does, the problem is that we have got so used to having a ruling government, being told what to do, saying yes sir, no sir, and so on. However, it hasn't been until the last 2 or 3 governments that we have felt that actually we have governments that seem to be actively working against us as opposed to for us. And as a result, yeah, you're seeing these little skirmishes, you're seeing these little pocket things going on, but the biggest indicator of what can happen was when we had the Southport killings. I don't know how much you know, or if
no, fill me in.
So this was a chap called Axel Rudakabana, whose father moved to the UK from Africa. He decided to attend a children's dance party. It was a Taylor Swift dance party for just little girls, and he went in there and he killed 3 little girls in there, and injured countless others, to the point where one of the girls he killed, they estimated he'd stabbed her over 100 times and pretty much had decapitated her. Muslim, they found in his house, they found ricin, they found an Al Qaeda manual. The problem is, other than that, the problem was that the immediate news report was that it was a Welsh choir boy who carried out these murders, which, as it turns out, was not quite true. So it was this withholding of information that eventually then came up. No, this was actually a radical Islamist who had done this for the sake of doing it. And as you can understand, anything to do with children, people get angry, very angry. The barbarism of what he did as well. People were furious, and immediately Keir Starmer comes out and says that all these people that are angry about it are just far-right folks. And so you're just gaslighting more and more the nation and all that. But then what happened was pockets of huge protests carried out everywhere where if you watched it, you thought it's going to kick off into civil war here. It got very close. It only simmered down purely because I think that they were trying to rush through getting him seen to and sentenced and everything. But that was just a little flashpoint that just shows, you know what, if you poke the bear enough, it's going to wake up. And
it was all over Taylor Swift.
Well, that's the thing. It was, it was just a dance party for little girls, and he went in and he absolutely butchered them.
Well, I recall, is it 10 years ago, there was some young British guy. He was like a drummer for the military, and he was stabbed and killed. I remember that one was like, oh my God, like. I'm not even British, and I'm like kind of pissed off about that.
Well, that was story. Lee Rigby. Yeah, it was Lee Rigby. They literally drove into him, and then they got out of the car and they beheaded him in the street.
How long ago was that?
Yes, that's a question. Let's have a quick look. Lee Rigby. That was 2013.
Wow, that's how far back my memory goes.
Yeah, and that was big news as well because people, as much as I thought it was disgusting, they were doing it anyway, but people were recording it on their phone, and there he stands with this bloody knife spouting about this was because of Afghanistan and so on. And they got whole life orders, so they will never come out of prison, ever. But that wasn't quite enough to tip people over, but there have been subsequent things that have happened since then, and I think all it does is it just keeps adding on top of each other. And I think the Taylor Swift one, because we were talking about little kids that had done nothing, and then you have to kind of think about the police that would have to have turned up, the ambulance service, the funeral directors. I actually work in the funeral industry, and I speak to people who were actually having to deal with the girls who passed away from that. And so you have to think about all the sort of the ramifications of this. And people were angry. They were furious. But not just because of what he did, but because how the information was kept secret from everyone, because this was just a Welsh choir boy who had done it, because they didn't want to say this was the son of a migrant, because they know too well how the public are going to react. And we've had similar ones before where they'll just say, they're very quick to come out and say, this is not the police are not treating this as a terrorist incident, which, with the way that the government goes, it is counterproductive, because you immediately then go, okay, well, it is then, isn't it?
Right, but here's the thing, we're talking about something that happened in 2013. The gaslighting has not simmered down at all. In fact, it's getting worse.
Yes.
In the United States, we have lulls, per se, and the lull currently is obviously Donald Trump. And with Donald Trump, it's more of a waiting game for when, let's say, the Democrats take power again, and then they're going to accelerate whatever agenda they have, which my intuition and just going by what has transpired the past 15 years, it's going to be, again, the same woke, it's DEI. I make a point that any guy that is currently working for ICE, they'll probably be targeted and such. So there's not much. It's a lot of rah with the Trump admin and those that support Trump, but they're not realizing that, hey, once Trump is gone, you still have to deal with these demons that are just lurking in the background.
Absolutely. Do you think? Because can he go for another term, or
no? He's also 80. Well, that's the other thing. We're dealing with a lot of elderly.
At some point, isn't he?
Right. So that's the whole gerontocracy of it all. Is that the United States is completely controlled by people who are 65 and older, and they're just not in tune with what's going on. They do not understand AI. They don't understand dead internet theory or dead economy. It's all, again, everything is based on a lie, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
My question is, does the average Anglo woman have the same lofty, pie in the sky, kind of macaroni art view of the world as American women, or are they much more aware of being decapitated while going on a morning run in London?
If you look at the statistics, and we've just recently had a fair few local elections, and they were able to bubble down information. And let me just find it. So, how many women?
Because in the United States, the average white woman is heavily sheltered, heavily coddled, so they're not necessarily aware of these type of problems. And because of Netflix and murder mysteries and all that other type of jazz, they tend to take a blanket across all men are like this, when they're not. No, it's this group over here. No, you shouldn't allow someone from Afghanistan to come to the United States on a lottery visa. That's not good. That's not gonna go. It's not gonna be good for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just actually looking at something here that was collected by YouGov, which is essentially a polling company, and it's entitled House of Commons. So basically, MPs, if only women 18 to 50 could vote, and the leading party would be the Green Party, which is the leftist of the left. So that goes to show just how much women in this country they lean towards the maternal kind of like what do they call it? Suicidal empathy.
Yes.
Things. It's a huge margin that I'm looking at here of going for who actually, if you were to have them in power, women would actually be worse off, but they cannot see this. All they can see are these poor people who they deem to be in need of looking after, who have come from other countries, despite the fact that women are more and more saying that they don't feel like they can walk out on their own.
There's contradictions.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And yet, if you get any, I mean, they're not afraid to call any other women who go against that far right. They're quite happy to call them that, even if they're just sort of saying, well, look, actually, wouldn't it be an idea if we had a society where it'd be safe to walk around? How dare you? Far right, Nazi. You look a lot of these left-wing protests, they're mostly women. And not only that, they seem to be a mixture of what you would expect, student-age women, but also boomers, and so on. But a lot of these are women who this isn't any of these issues that they're worried about aren't in their back garden. They're not things that they have to deal with.
We call it the laptop class.
Absolutely. Were they to live amongst the issues that other people are raising, they probably wouldn't be so keen to be asking for it. But it's a bit like when you get the gays for Palestine sort of things, and you're like, okay, well, let's see how you would get on in Palestine. Sort of like the chickens or advocating for KFC. What we're finding is that women here are predominantly liberal. Achingly so. But it's because, I mean, they're likening it to the fact that, well, it's because women aren't having it, not as many women are having children. So they're looking for almost like surrogate children to have. So migrants. Oh, okay, well, a child is somebody or something that I can look after and I want to protect, but I haven't got that. So here's a poor person who's come from abroad. I will aim for that instead.
It's called telescopic philanthropy. You can look up that term.
There you go.
It's where, okay, you're focusing on what's happening in Africa. You'll do a selfie with a bunch of brown people, right? Right. You do a stint for an NGO or something. Look at me, I'm helping. Look, we did a what is it? It's like okay, you handed out condoms and birth control, and you feel like you're doing good. Meanwhile, there's people in your own backyard where you grew up that are suffering. We dug a well. We dug a well in Mawali. We're just helping. That aspect of things has not died as much as I envisioned. Post-COVID, I thought more recently that a lot of the ongoing social movements would have dissipate post-COVID, but they certainly have not. They've slowed down, but they're still there, and a lot of this has to do with just papering over the economy as a whole. This finance class, the fire economy, as they like to call it. It's the constant papering overing of the rot. Where again you can have these women who are going out to Gays for Palestine, and then they could go back to their job working in marketing and such, where it's really not producing any type of good or betterment for anybody.
Oh, absolutely. And what we also have to deal with is any time there is any kind of movement towards what more right-leaning policies, there's always a counter-protest, always. And it doesn't matter if it was in the middle of nowhere, you're always going to get a counter left-wing protest. But they always have the same signs. And so that is why we've always known that they are being funded by someone,
right,
or group, because they always have the stand up to racism signs. Now, you look at what I would call the authentic, organic protests that appear because there was one particular town in the UK that they were having continuous protests because there was this hotel that they were housing migrants in, and a young teenager in the area got raped by someone. Well, then there was these continuous protests about this. But you look at the signs; they're all hand drawn. They're not mass produced or anything like that. They're written.
Someone actually took the time, energy, and effort into actually making the sign.
Well, yeah, but also because they've had to make it themselves, and then you get your counter protest. They've all got these mass-produced signs that have clearly been handed to them, and then you would actually, and then as they found out, these are paid protesters, and it turns out that they're getting paid £50 to just turn up, which is equivalent of what, $80 or so, just to turn up and hold a sign. Okay, and then you go, well, paid by who? There's obviously.
In the United States, there's an overlap with a lot of the climate change activists and down with racism and such, and pro LGBT. There's an overlap between all of them. I remember during COVID, you saw ads on Craigslist. Craigslist is a thing here where get paid to stand at a protest and such.
Yes.
Yeah, so we certainly do have a lot of that in the United States. Again, since Trump has been involved and his administration's pushing in different angles and with different agendas, you don't necessarily see that as much because there's not much to protest currently. And we also have just a general burnout with people on the left where we just don't necessarily want to hear it. But the most vocal of the group tends to be women. That is for certain. So let me ask you now, does your wife share the same political views? Is she aware of these type of things, or is she non-political? How does she? You obviously have children, so she's probably a little bit more cognitively aware on her children's future. Or I could be wrong.
Well, my ex-wife was, I would say she was centre. I would say there were some things that she would agree with me on because I consider myself right. I wouldn't say I'm not far right. I mean, I don't know. There's very few people who are actually far right. But she would be more central. My current partner is very much in the same step as me, and she gets annoyed at things. What makes me laugh about my current partner is that one of the days that she gets most angry about is International Women's Day. She actually gets furious about it because she's like, for what? why are we having these celebrations? Because she will be the first to say, well, what about International Men's Day, which seems to get ignored, you know? And she'll sit there and she'll go, I'm looking through social media and I get sick of all these posts about boss queen, you go girl, and, or, you know, girls rule the world. And she's just like, this is all just rubbish. This is all just trash. And in a way, it's quite nice to hear someone have that point of view, especially a woman.
Yes.
Because she's like, I don't need this. What is this for? You know, it's half the population, right? Okay. Well, what about it? And it's just refreshing just to hear it sometimes.
Well, it seems that in the UK, the men tend to riot over football games more than a killing, as they say. And maybe that might be been blown out of proportion again from what I see on.
It used to be the case that the football side of it very rarely nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you much into your sports?
Yeah. So I'll say soccer because that's what you guys refer to it as. Yeah. Although I do like my ice hockey as well. I do follow the Red Wings. That's the team that I picked. But yeah, the country had a very dark history in terms of hooliganism when it came to soccer, but it's really not a thing anymore. I think what happened was
I don't know.
the stadiums got turned into all seating, and it kind of, in a strange way, sanitized.
It's more, it's more corporate driven, and for me, that is probably the saddest and most black-pilling. Obviously, the women question is goes without saying, but is that if I were to go out and try to enjoy myself, it's advertisements, it's 300% markup on a drink, loud music that I don't enjoy whatsoever. There's no outlet for men, and there's a kind of like a clapper monkey where you keep winding it up. Men don't have these outlets to be men. England has a long history of just throwing men on a boat, go out in the sea, and go conquer shit. Right?
Yes.
You don't. The ruling class is not utilizing men capital in a functional manner, especially when you have an excess male population not in a relationship. So in the U.S. men tend to internalize these problems, and society as a whole, whether it's left or right, say it's your fault why you're a failure. It's your fault why you can't get a job. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Go figure it out. You'll figure it out. That's something I heard ad nauseum as a teenager. Right. So there's no outlets for men besides video games and porn and things like that. So it's heavily sanitized where again, I guess the helicopter parenting has the nanny state, helicopter parenting, whatever you want to call it, is kind of it's like a paint you spill and it kind of gets into all crevices of society.
Yeah, and the thing is, as much as this obviously isn't for all men, but what a lot of men used to do was they used to join the military.
Right.
Well. And as everything that's happened in Iran has proved to the UK, is that we don't really have a military anymore.
Or Navy. The Navy is in shambles for sure.
Absolutely. And it was actually quite worrying to realise we're an island and we don't really have any defence. But then when you look deeper and deeper into it, the cost cutting of the defence budget with us has meant that not only are they just not taking on soldiers and anybody in the military, but the ones that they have got, they have flooded it so much. I mean, it's been a captured institution for a while now, and they are including this whole kind of DEI kind of thing into it. And yeah, I've had conversations with numerous people who have either had friends who are in the military or have been in the military, and they've just said, I've got to the point where I don't even know why I'm in it and what I'm fighting for. So they've left. And so the military we do have, as sparse as it is, it's not really what you'd probably want as a military. And especially when we had the base that was in Cyprus that got hit with a drone that had come from Iran, or it might have been from Yemen. There was no defense against it. They literally just watched this drone come in and just explode on the airbase. And it's like, well, you got Israel with its Iron Dome, which anything that comes in, they fire at it. And yet here we are, supposed superpower, and we've just watched a drone come and explode in one of our air bases. It's worrying. It's worrying. But the military, like I said, it never used to have an issue back in the day of people applying for it, men applying for it, because it was something that was deemed manly. It was something that you wanted to do. You wanted to, serve the Queen and the country and everything like that. It's just not there anymore. So they don't even if you was that way inclined, you haven't got that as an option really anymore.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, who exactly are we fighting? There's no adversary to the West or to England or the United States. You get a lot of talk about China, but China is an insular defensive nation. They are not offensive whatsoever, and they never. I don't think they ever will be. They may take Taiwan at some point, but that's kind of in their sphere. So by all means, it doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah, who's going to stop them at the end of the day?
Right, and you talk about Russia. I mean, I thought Russia be done with Ukraine by now, but they certainly aren't, which makes you wonder exactly. Well, what is Russia's? A lot of people in America are very pro-Russia. For a lot of different reasons, they've gone back to a lot of orthodoxy in a lot of regards. And they tend to be a counterweight to the West, but I'm a little surprised and shocked at how inept the Russian government has been with regards to Ukraine and geopolitics, for that matter.
Fuck, is this clear sky?
The thing is, right,
yeah, clear sky.
I think there are just some countries that you're always perpetually worried about being invaded by or attacked by. But I think that will never be part of any kind of global conflict anymore.
I agree.
Because the risks will always outweigh the benefits of it. So, in all fairness, I did count Iran as well, because Iran, to me, as soon as I heard that these strikes had happened in Iran, immediately I thought, oh my God.
Yeah, this is it.
Places, but Iran, Russia, China, these kind of countries, you're never going to have a war with, because it's going to be too much like poking a bear. You wouldn't do it, okay? It's only these other countries where there's a huge oil incentive, not being funny, but it's true, or it's going to be so easy to deal with. These are the only times that you're going to have conflicts. Now, the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, this is going to be a never-ending war. There is going to be no end to it.
Until there's no more Ukrainian people. I think it's just a genocide of the Ukrainian ethnicity in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. The only issue, and I think why maybe Russia are getting more support with that, is because of a lot of countries are pumping money into Ukraine in terms of their defenses, and then they're going, where's the money going? Because there's claims about Zelensky. What is he doing with the money? Is he keeping it for himself? And so on. And people just don't have money. And when they hear that their tax money is being sent to Ukraine, initially you think, okay, fair enough, help them out. But you hear so many stories, rightly or wrongly, where this money is then going to, and you just think, well, hang on a moment. All right, we've got our own problems as well. I think people just don't like the idea of their tax-paying dollars to go to something that really isn't going to come to an end ultimately.
100%. Let me ask you: is the situation in other parts of Europe as bad as England? It seems that England is more at the forefront, as if there were to be some type of rebellion or large-scale riot, perhaps even a civil war. I always thought France would be more at the forefront of these things. So they're much more patriotic. They like their wine. They seem to be a little bit more religious than England. You can't really say, and I've talked about the Mediterranean countries. They're just poor. So when you're poor, you have less to give. And they're like, no, no, no. You could go over to Germany, England, France. You are not staying here. Italy's much more racist. Greece and maybe Spain, to a lesser extent, are far more xenophobic, as they say.
Well, each country seems to have their own issues that are going on. The issue that Germany's got a huge immigration issue, and Angela Merkel was a huge cause of that when she was Chancellor of Germany. But the problem that Germany has is it's still self-flagellating about World War II, and I think they're so keen to show the world that we're not the Nazis anymore. We're not the Nazis anymore. That they're quite happy to allow things to happen to them, because I think they dare think if they do anything that's slightly pro-German, everyone's going to go, see, they're back. They're back again. They're going to do something again. And I honestly do believe that is the mindset that the government that have there. They're so left-leaning that they would dare not do anything that might suggest that this is a little bit of a callback to World War II. And to the point now where actually one of their government ministers has employed a team to use AI to search social media to find anyone who may criticize him, and he immediately puts a lawsuit on them. And there was this elderly gentleman in Germany who got a lawsuit on him purely because I can't remember what he said about the particular, but it was about something about his facial features, stuff like that. It was as simple as that. So in a strange way, they've gone almost kind of Stasi-like in the way that they've gone the other way, but because I think the biggest eye-opener for me was New Year's Eve, all the videos come out across all of Europe, and all you ever saw were Muslim immigrants, just in inhumane numbers everywhere. And it didn't matter if it was Amsterdam or if it was in Germany or if it was exactly the same. And then it was just an inundation of churches being burnt. So there was one in Holland that we saw that was being burnt down as well. The problem is that the EU regulates everything. They have no issue with mass migration. There's obviously a reasoning for all this, which everyone is aware of, with this whole sort of globalization idea of everything. But the only thing that has ever saved England is the fact that we were an island. And that was what protected us with World War II as well. But like you mentioned earlier in the video, with the rubber boats coming over and everything, and just we've been inundated. They estimate that we're supposed to have 70 million people in this country. It's more than that. It's more than that. You only have to. We're a small island. I mean, we're smaller than Florida, I believe. So, and yet we've got, I would say, best part of 80 million here. You only have to go out on the roads to see that this country is full. And the problem is that when you feel like you're in that pressure cooker for long enough, that's when things will happen. And is something somewhere is going to happen on Europe, and obviously I hope it doesn't. I'm not advocating for everything, but something's going to flip because it's a tinderbox situation everywhere.
Out of which country you think it'll be?
I think it is probably going to be somewhere like France.
Yeah.
Because France tends to be they're very emotional at the best of times. I mean, I still remember they were the only country I ever used to remember that used to protest if the
over everything.
Yeah. They're quite happy to protest. There was recently they had this big thing in the news about this particular young gentleman who died because he was attacked by Antifa, literally killed him. And I know that stirred up quite an awful lot. And I just know the French, it doesn't take too much for them to go. And when they go as well. And I think that they and I, as much as we've been historical enemies of one another, we do have similarities in some ways. And I do think if something kicked off over there, it would probably then
It would
move
spark,
over
right?
here as well. Yeah, absolutely. And then that would be it. And then basically, I think governments would then have to make a choice as to whose side are you on, because the people will always win at the end of the day.
In the U.S., we don't. I truly believe just because of the sheer size and the ability to leave a certain area, you won't necessarily have any type of pop off. And if the time to do it would have been during COVID.
Yes.
And that seemed to have came and went, especially with the amount of hostility coming from the Biden administration that, well, you didn't get the jab, you're going to die. I was like, oh my God, this is, I'm like looking at my brother, like, did you just say we're going to die in a few months because we didn't take the jab? And the people that didn't take the jab, it's still fresh it's still somewhat fresh in their mind. Like, no, that really did happen, right?
Yes.
No, we're not just going to forget about what transpired 4 or 5 years ago. We're not going to forget about releasing prisoners into the street because you wanted to stop the spread. Like, that still somewhat lingers in a large swath of the American mindset, and the people
it does as well, Nick, because I'll tell you for why. On top of that, just to go back to the Southport incident where those kids were killed, they were literally, because our jails are near enough at capacity, they were literally releasing criminals to put people in jail because of tweets. People don't forget that, and they don't forget the lockdowns. I think what has gone is trust. Trust in your government has gone.
Well, okay, so let me ask you: the police. It seems that they just tend to go along with the political agenda. Do you sense any type of like turning a blind eye from the police, or actually doing something about it? In the United States, they tend to go with the political agenda because, hey, it's a pension, it's a paycheck. Is that still somewhat of the case? Because I see British police officers, I'm like, you're an asshole. Like, how could you be supporting the true criminals? Yeah, again, it's social justice, it's anarcho-tyranny, so on and so forth. But again, like, what's the general vibe, at least from the average constable?
I don't think the police have ever been as despised in the UK as they have been now. Not even by, because the police were obviously always despised by criminals, understandably, but the general public has always had a high level of trust and respect for the police force in the UK. Ever since Southport, ever since any of these protests, because what's become very popular in the UK are these YouTube channels of what they call auditors. So people who have just got camera on and they attend protests and they attend things, and literally all they're doing is just recording. Okay, so you are actually seeing things in real time. And the police are hating it because the police are being shown up for things that they're doing or how they create their what they call two-tier system. They're treating this group one way and this group a different way. And the thing is, the media can spin things as many times or different ways that they want. But if you've literally got a live stream, which is showing you second by second of what's happening, the camera doesn't lie. And so what you're seeing is preferential treatment for certain groups, and the native people of this country have been pushed down so far down the list that again, that respect for the police has gone. Now, I'm not saying every police officer is in on this, and I guarantee there's an awful lot of them that are very much like, really, is this what I'm having to do? But there's been an awful lot of police officers that have left the force because they just couldn't cope with the rubbish anymore, the direction it was going. So then that begs the question, well, then who are left?
Right.
Still doing it, okay? And you can see in some of them the glee in what they're doing. And that is what concerns me, because then they're no longer the defenders of the society. They are just the arm of the government, which is just there to push the native people around.
Is avant-garde to the ruling class of England. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But here's the thing: the United States ruling class is certainly different than that of the UK, and I just when we tend to kind of paint a broad brush as far as who's controlling the United States, and I try to make a point that Europe is not controlled by the same people that are controlling the United States. So it kind of befuddles me that the ruling class of the UK tends to just kowtow to the political agenda of the United States. It's allowing the United States culture to, again, this like the paint spilling of the paint permeate across the pond, where drips and drabs of Pax Americana have certainly made its way to Europe one way or another. Obviously, because of the English language, it makes the dissemination of news and such. You're able to push a certain agenda much easily.
Yeah.
Versus if you're German, you're getting German news, and just because the amount of people that are bilingual, you're getting more of this type of English propaganda versus something of your own native tongue. I know in Italy they don't teach English as a second language, so maybe in Italy it's a little bit different. Greek has a different alphabet. Other parts of Europe, you're not necessarily getting it as much. Germany,
Russia is
obviously, because
kurwa.
of
That's
the
that shit, bro.
mustache man,
Mustache man.
they're gonna obviously do is what you said. Look, we're accepting. We love everybody. But you can definitely in Australia, it's like it's accelerated where it's like America 2.0. It's like with the feminism and just the women's rights and embracing of migrants and such, where which is kind of it makes me wonder, well, is it more or less that you've gone so long without having an adversarial enemy that you've kind of forgot the basic rules of the roads and why there was guardrails up in the first place? I mean, England, I mean, not England, but Australia, the Japanese basically landed on the northwestern portion of Australia. And they're like, yeah, there's no way we're invading this place. We're getting the hell out of here. We'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
And with England being removed from being bombarded, 1940, the United States has never had a city raised. That's kind of, I just think you've gone so long without having a true enemy that that you just forgot basic rules of the road.
Well, what is it they say? Was it good times produce soft men? And ultimately, when you want to encapsulate what it is like to be English, you hit the nail on the head there. You go back to when London and other cities in the UK were being bombed by the Germans during World War II, during the Blitz. They always referred to it as the Blitz spirit. So despite the fact that your country was being attacked from above, the community rallied together. The identity, no one was worrying about who's a man or a woman or anything like that, or women's rights and all that when you got bombs coming at you from the sky. Okay, nobody was worrying about these things then. What everyone was doing was pulling in together, protecting one another. And I think you almost need to have a life of some hardship. I'm not saying poverty, I'm not saying anything like that, but you have to have some kind of manual hardship to your life to then have this appreciation of what you have, your neighbor, your fellow man.
Comparison.
Because ultimately what you end up having is what we are in now, in this sort of fat, gelatinous kind of blob of nothing that we all seem to have. We have everything and nothing at the same time. And ultimately what's going to happen is there are going to come a time when there is going to be another war or something like that. What are we going to do? We've got nothing. We've got when there was all this question about Russia invading the Ukraine, they asked God knows how many people in the UK, if they brought back conscription, would you fight for your country? The majority of people said no.
Fuck no.
Right.
So what would you do? Would it be the end of the nation? That's the question. I mean, America, you've got the combination of your safety of numbers, you've got your literal size of your country. You're not going to be invaded. But all these other countries in Europe, not so much. They haven't got that security. There's a lot of countries near to the Ukraine that are kind of looking over their shoulders at the minute. But you tend to find that their societies, I've been speaking to a guy who's actually from Latvia. So one of these kind of like countries just moved along from Ukraine. And he moved to the UK and he actually said life is better in Latvia because he kind of focused in on this idea of friendship because he saw my video about friends and not having any of that. And he said people seem to appreciate each other more in Latvia, I suppose, because they have got this existential potential threat at any time, so they need to have that bond with each other. And he said
it's such a small country. There's only so many Latvia that somewhat saves them. Iceland's another case where it's half a million people. You're able to control your government much better than versus 20, 30, 40 million.
Yeah, but he was basically saying that he came to the UK and he said you don't see people actually form what he would deem to be true friendships. They're surface level. They're only to suit a need, and then they're gone. Whereas he said it's very much more of a looking after your fellow man in Latvia. And I just found it interesting. And I guess when we do think about it, it's these countries. I mean, Iceland. I mean, even just the conditions of living there. You know, sometimes that harshness can make a society run better because you haven't got everything handed to you. It's that sort of that laissez-faire approach to everything that just allows for all this mess to come in, and all we end up with are people believing that they're cats and things like that, which there's places in Africa, I'm pretty sure they're not discussing with each other, oh, I feel like a man today, or I'm a cat today, or anything like that, because they're worrying about, am I going to get food?
Right, yes, exactly. And it goes back to the kind of the comfort level. Too much comfort breeds these, well, am I a woman? Right?
Yeah.
And for anybody that knows anything about, like, you know, the whole gender politics of things, you know, again, I lived in Southeast Asia, and I try explaining to Americans who don't necessarily know anything about ladyboy culture, is that men would, in those countries, they see the benefits women get, though they're a very warped view on what being a woman is, but they see the hypergamy where it's an easy way out of a hardship. They don't necessarily have to go fight in combat when you have high heels on or carrying around a small dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with places like Thailand where you've got the Tui, who are your lady boys, but they're essentially prostitutes.
Right.
There's money. It's money in it. They're not doing it because society is making them do it. It's because they're doing it for a means at the end of the day. And but these soft times that we have just create these issues that in my mind are non-issues, really. I mean, the big issue that we seem to be having in the UK at the moment is this idea of what does it mean to be British? Because we're having a massive debate at the moment between what we call the civ-nats and the f-nats. Now, the civ-nats are the people who are basically saying to be British is to feel like you're British and to follow the rules of like what it is in like British society. And the f-nats are basically saying, well, no, to be British or English specifically is genetic. You know, you are an English person by your hereditary, you know, your family line and so on. And it's interesting because the people who are the civ-nats who are saying, well, no, you know, someone can come from Africa and they can then be British because they feel like they are British, you know, they're foreign away, are the same people that are then saying, well, no, a man can't pretend that they're a woman because they feel like a woman. And then you're kind of like, this is the same argument. But you're agreeing, you're saying anyone can be British because they feel British, but then at the same time saying that a man can't be a woman because he feels like a woman. It's a weird. These are all problems that they're not having in certain countries in the world because they haven't got the time to be thinking about that because they're trying to deal with living. For a
Right,
start.
they're too busy getting eaten by a leopard.
Yes, absolutely. Or fighting in war, or having severe poverty, and I do think that the UK has been lucky in the respect of nobody's attempted to invade us since World War II, thankfully. However, we've just been in this malaise in this time, this laissez-faire lifestyle, and this is why we've ended up with this plague of the West, which is this. We're actually quite shit, really, aren't we? We're horrible people. If only we would allow more of these people in so that we can redeem ourselves. This conversation, the fact of that we are apparently looking to be paying back reparations for slavery, despite the fact the UK were the ones that stopped slavery. We're not having these conversations in other countries. It's just not happening, and it's a sickness in my mind.
Well, from what I grasp, one reason or another is that people from Jamaica or any of the Commonwealth who they view themselves as British because they were part of the Commonwealth, therefore, I have some type of ownership in England or Britain per se, or I guess UK. And so when I see, like, when I speak or when I speak or have conversations with, they're usually black and they're from the Caribbean and they have very thick British accents. Having this conversation with them, they're like, well, look, we were ruled by England. I sound British. I've adopted a lot of their cultural traits and so on and so forth. They understand that they're not English, but they have some type of say in whatever the UK does.
Which is fine, but they are British civilians. That is essentially it is. If we're talking about what it is to be English or Scottish and all that, that's in your bloodlines. That is what it is. People always say, well, then let's look at Japan. Okay, if my parents moved to Japan and then they had me, would I be Japanese?
Right.
Maybe by citizenship, yes, but by ethnicity, no. And that's not a problem. And this is where people are getting themselves in a twist because they feel like it's an attack, and it's like, well, it's not an attack on you. It's just facts. That's all it is. You are a civilian of this country. That if they were to dig up your bones, they would be able to say whether you was from here or from there because of the way that your bone structure was. It's science. At the end
Well,
of
I
the
think
day.
that also people tend to not in a more historical context because if women don't apply themselves to history because it doesn't necessarily have any meaning to them, because if we look through history, it's all dominated by men. You could talk a little bit about the Romans and who they married and such, and the political infighting and such. But generally speaking, it's history is like 90% guy oriented per se, and. When I try explaining historical context to them about England, I go, England was a basket case shithole for hundreds of years. Okay, what you see England now wasn't even the case in 1850. When we talk about the Renaissance, it does not apply to England. No, it was horrible. If you look at the Tyler White riots, the 14th century and stuff, and I have some books on it because I was fascinated about peasant revolts of England, and these type of rebellions and this type of history has no real. It wasn't necessarily going on in other parts of England. You have the German peasant rebellion of the 16th century, but the overriding majority, when we think of medieval times, we're applying that to England, and British men wanted to get off that island because it was unpleasant. And a lot of people don't seem to grasp it, that it's an island with really bad weather, with an oppressive government, and when you talk about European history and stuff, they tend to have some form of demarcation in their minds when thinking about these things.
Well, I think what saved us and sort of built up the reputation was the fact that because we are an island, what do people on an island have a lot of? They have a lot of ships, and so we were a nation of explorers as well, and so that is how our reputation became worldwide, because we were the ones that would go out on these wooden ships, and there was an essence of bravery to it and courage, because if you think about it, the amount of these ships that would go out, how many would actually return? Probably nowhere near as many that went out. But yeah, it's got a checkered past, but at the same time, this is our home, okay? And this is what we tend to say to people who are like, they don't understand why we're concerned that we're being inundated with illegal immigrants and so on. It's like they have a home they can go to. If they decide that this place is not for them, they can return back to where they come from. This is actually our home. This is all we've got. We don't have a home.
Right, where are you gonna go? You want to go to Canada? I don't think Canada's a great. Well, speaking of which, Canada is. I don't expect it to be a country in the next 50 years. I truly don't see it existing much longer, much further. And I think it's even harder for Canadians because their history is much shorter. And you say you have the lieutenant governor there, so technically it's still somewhat controlled by England. So is New Zealand and Australia, for that matter. Well, people don't tend to realize that England still controls these countries. It's not well known. It's because it's the only time, and I'm sure you know what a lieutenant governor is that if the King of England decides, you know what, I'm done with this whatever this government is, I'm taking it back, he actually has the ability to do that if he wanted to.
Yeah,
right?
He can dissolve government. They never will, because especially with the king we've got at the moment, he's very keen on what we've got at the moment. But I don't know what it is with Canada. I don't think if Canada have just tried their hardest to not be America. I don't quite understand why. Because in all fairness, they look at the size of it. Look at the beauty of the country as well. You know, they have got their own resources as well. How you can mess that up as bad as they have, I do feel sorry for the people there, because they've just been driven down this one-way street the wrong way for so long now. And like you said, I can't see what their future is really.
No, especially when you have Donald Trump talking about annexing Greenland, and he's hinted.
Yeah.
Well, again, Trump he asks for the universe and settles for a couple satellites in outer space, and that tends to be his MO, which makes sense in a business mindset. But it's definitely not looking good for our neighbors in the north. And I do want to ask you about this, because I just wrote an article about gambling. And I've done quite a bit of research on gambling. I was in Las Vegas 2 months ago. It was my first time really going there. I went as a child, but when you're 10 years old, what the hell do you know?
How did you do? Did you do okay?
Down $400. I was up 700, and I wound up being down $400. It was a great time. I have no complaints about the losings. It's not an impulse addiction. It's a process addiction. That's one thing I've taken away from doing some research on gambling. But while I was researching betting and casinos and such, a lot of these gambling apps all come from England. And England has had a long history with allowing gambling. And I was wondering if you know anything about it. Do you see any of your friends, families, and such downloading betting apps? Do you have any history of it? What's the boots on the ground as far as gambling is concerned?
Well, personally, I've never had any issues with it. I've never had any addictions or anything like that. I've never been flush enough with money to just gamble it away. You know what I mean? I've never had it in the first place to try and gamble it. But what you'll tend to find is in a lot of the towns and cities in the UK, if you go down like the main high streets where all the stores are and everything like that, you can generally tell the state of a town by how many gambling stores it has, how many gambling shops it has. The more it has, the more run down the place tends to be. So you'll tend to find that you'll have a number of betting shops. You'll have, if you have those, you will also then find your kind of your pawn shops as well. There tends to be a sort of a correlation there. There is a massive issue with gambling in this country. I think it's because we have such an affinity with both horse racing and soccer. That tends to become the addiction, because obviously there's always races, there's always matches being played. So if people lose, they're kind of like, right, well, there's the next one I can bet on and I'll make my money back. There's a lot of an ethical and moral issue going on in the respect of, we find that a lot of the soccer teams, we were finding that they were getting sponsors on the shirts, and these were betting companies. And then people would say, look, this is a bit irresponsible, because you're basically flaunting yourself in a sport that people are having issues with in terms of gambling addiction. And they never really seem to do anything about it. It just seems that it's almost part of the culture. You have a little bit of a gamble on something. But as with most things, you know, you're finding that people are getting stuck in it. And then whether it's like alcohol addiction or gambling or anything like that, it's a real issue over here. And thankfully, I've been able to steer clear of it myself, but I have known of many people who've got stuck with it, and they've lost so much money and find themselves with nothing.
Well, no, okay, so with that being said, what's the Muslims' reaction to all these things? What's the Muslims' reaction to divorce courts and such? I've actually read that a lot of British men, Englishmen, have converted to Islam just to avoid divorce courts. Is that true? And if you want to build upon what I said earlier about this, you know, prostitution and such, all these vices.
It wouldn't surprise me. Now, there is a big push in this country for us to adopt Sharia law. As you can imagine, a lot of us are pushing back against it, because we have our own law, we have our own rule of law. We don't need Sharia law added to it as well. What you will tend to find is that when it comes to Islam, it can be very pick and choose as to what they go for. So, in other words, no, we need to have a mosque, we need to have call to prayer, we need to have Sharia law. But then you look, and considering they're supposed to be against any kind of Western ideas or materials and all that, they'll be wearing Nike trainers. And you're like, oh, you're okay with that? And you'll find Muslims that drink alcohol, you'll find Muslims that gamble, that we use prostitutes, but in the same breath we'll be saying we need Sharia law.
Right.
It's a weird dynamic. And the thing is, right, we're also finding that we're getting more and more products appearing as well that are halal. But they're supposed to market as well that it's halal meat, so that obviously you're aware. But then we're now finding that actually there's products that are on the shelves that are actually halal, but they're not even marking it on there that they're halal. So regular non-Muslim people are eating this, not realising it's halal, which is a big issue. We are a sort of animal-loving country, and a lot of the country has an issue with it. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, though. I mean, we don't seem to ever have any Muslims saying, why are these betting shops here? In fact, you're more likely to see them going in and out of the betting shops, but then in the next breath saying that they want X, Y, and Z. So it's all very hypocritical. In terms
right.
of it.
So listen, with that being said, I know it's late by you. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, no.
I had a fun.
No
this was
worries.
actually a lot of fun. We should definitely do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got my number. Is there tell me a little bit about your channel. Do you have any? What are your plans for your channel? Do you have anything in particular you want to do with having a YouTube channel? And also, how long have you been on YouTube?
Well, that's an interesting story. So, my channel is Wise Man 3. So I started that back in 2007. And in my youth, so I was just putting comedy sketches on there and such, but it kind of waned off. And then I've been starting up in the last few months again. So it's been in exile for a long while. What am I looking to do with it? I'm just looking to be posting videos on there of how my life is affected in different ways. But I have also started my own podcast on there, and it's the Wise Words podcast, where I just speak to different guests who I think are just interesting, got interesting stories to tell. I do try and get it more from the male perspective side of things, because I think we need to be speaking more than we are, and especially about male issues. But yeah, if anybody wants to check out, by all means do so. And yeah, long may it continue.
Very well, man. Listen, enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much for staying up with me. Enjoy yourself. We'll definitely be in touch, all right?
Thank you ever so much, Nick. That's great.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care then.
Oh. And what is now going to play? Terminator. Okay. Yeah, we need some movie in the background. Or nothing in the background. Probably nothing. FM the pump station.
Ну, как будешь у нас на
That will be something. It'll be very hard. Are they here already? They're just coming, right? Terminator, that's a good one. Hey man, I love your outfit. What are the shoes, man? What are the shoes, man?
Shekels from AZ. Appears.
Shekels, check it out. From who? AZ? Is that Azork? I don't know. If it's you, then come to Discord. Thanks for Shekels. It's probably from Azork, I think. Not sure, let me know. Hey, hello Twitch. Nice. Wow. Nice. Gonna buy some slop to eat. That's a funny Gmail name, lol. Crazy. Okay, it's happening. Oh, fuck. What the fuck? Where are they, bro? Dang, you're gonna crash. Okay. Alright. You motherfuckers are insane. taking hits. Too much. Taking hits, bro. Telka Hobo, that's his fucking name. This is problematic. Where the fuck are these motherfuckers, bro? Okay. Is this enemy? Right, I think I might be. Fuck, it's too many of them, bro. You are shitting me, right? Whoa, I can't handle this Nuki. Too much Nuki. Oh no. Oh, run. And friendly, okay. Okay, renegade. What's that? Whoa. Waste. Kurva, I destroyed my PDA because of the jump. You are shitting me. Some looting will be in order. Shit, I got a lot of stuff. Perfect foundation. Yeah. Perfect foundation. Yeah. Shit. Mountain Dew. Yeah. Fucking loot. This guy looks loaded. A lot of dudes here. I mean, excellent. What? It's lagging? What do you mean buffering? Ah, Siemens. Siemens A35. Shitting me, bro. That was my first phone. Maybe second, I don't know. How did I even fucking survive? Yeah, I did too. That's not good. Hop, hop, hop. Not anymore. It should be very, very smooth at this point. This is probably 60 FPS here in this swamp. And this ragdoll is very, very good. So that's that. Back to base. Don't crash.
Здрав, Буди! Как насчет выпить-закусить?
Battery. Okay. Somebody was looking for battery, but who was it?
Ты заходи, если потрепаться охота придет.
I need to link. The link for Azork to join the server. As well, his name I can't remember. Yeah, I'll put some music in the meantime because I'm multitasking and shit.
Привет, сталкер! Что скажешь?
Yo, this is Blabbermouf coming to you all the way live from the Shogun HQ. And I just like to say, me and Popo made this album for people of all ages, sizes, and colors all over the world, yo. Of course, the hip hoppers, beat heads, b-boys, turntablists, MCs, graffiti artists. We got some funky stuff that hasn't been heard in a while, yo. So Pete, hit him with the next joint. Yeah, check it out, It's the proper way to hate in the Blabbermouf, yo. Check it, hey yo, I can write a rhyme, rip it up and write the next one. I can write a rhyme, rip it up and write the next one. I can write a rhyme, rip it up and write the next one. I can write a rhyme, rip it up, yo. The Blabbermouf, you'll leave the flabbergasted. The Blabbermouf, you'll leave the flabbergasted. The Blabbermouf, you'll leave the flabbergasted. The rest of Blabber will leave the flabbergasted. I follow the rock MCs against the wall quick, just like a throw up. Hip hop for me belongs to get other coppers eating donuts. My lyrical tone was stab it and over. Keep in touch with my inner child, allow me to go nuts. I don't wanna go
Dong is that? Also, who is that sad soul in the front of the fire? Which one? There are people in here. Song is hold on. This album right here from 2012. They are from Netherlands, actually, yeah. A lot of good music from Holland, actually. Dope DLD. With a Bon Gras. So many good music from Netherlands. Don't forget to get a subscribe, of course. I'm grinding 25 subscribers for starters. So, anthology. This mod is solo, I mean. Alright, thanks. Couple of characters. What do you mean, like Avatar? What do you mean? Or you mean in Stalker Anomaly? Elaborate. Too far away. Post link, direct link. Oh no, that's way too much HP. Go away.
Yeah, check it out, what? Yeah. Your body for when I'm a different but that's one of your arteries. Blabbermouf is on the microphone, but focus on the beat. The shit is butter. Yeah, the shit is butter. Word, shit, butter. Yeah. My shit butter. Word, the mother, word, shit butter. But lyrical butter, that's what. My shit butter. Word, the mother, word, shit butter. But lyrical butter, that's what. My shit butter. Word, the mother, word, shit butter. But lyrical butter, that's what. My shit butter. Word, the mother, word, shit butter. But lyrical butter, that's what. Fuckers with the butter shit that make everybody start wondering how I get down with the funkiness, we're bouncing out stunning shit. Let me tell you, I've been perfecting my art for years. Working on floating cars, make real and pop reappear. And a double dare, any whack MC to interfere across my path. I'll bend you in half. The rumble be spared, be representing from the right to the left, front to the rear. I got a truck loaded with bombs, so I'm never unprepared. And my punchlines will hit you like a Indian spear. Slice right, you all you gimmicks and wannabes out there. I'm the rapper, mic snatcher, blunt, rapper, smack a rapper when I spit. Flying daggers, I'm the master of all ciphers. Figured it all, you rappers is house cats. I'll be a rage, a liar, till you never the finger licking. Flavor, I'm fire, so what you trying, forget it. Realize there ain't no other. Shit, I flow with rhymes butter.
Military is here. Oh, the shit is lagging. These locations look so good.
Здоров.
Ah, okay. Glory kill. Oh, what the hell? Yeah. The texture is blinking here. What? Green? Boom. shit. Bad mistake. Frag them, just like that. Oh no, they are throwing grenades. No fucking way. No fucking way. They literally throw grenade into my face. What the fuck? Oh no, that's terrible, bro. It totally destroyed my suit. Or now you are coming. Now, what the fuck? We need to reload. That grenade was lethal. So fucking cold in Gulag. I bet we're gonna crash the system. Memory leak. No money, no props, no recognition, and no fame, no cars, no bitches, no mention, no airplay, no tours, no promotion. You ain't getting the damn thing. To all the punks and all the suckers. Okay, it works. So those fuckers are just chilling there somewhere. Medium. Stun grenade. One fucking loud weapon. Yeah.
Чего тебе?
Fuck, I need better film.
Так, собрались. Быть наготове.
Oh, I need a life. I'm shooting now. Alright. You good? Shit. Okay, but the guy... Freedom Stalker didn't like it. Fuck. Really? Whoa. What is wrong with this area? Oh. Oh, unnecessary, but okay. Anyway, what is this fucking... suppressor? Too much shit. Always looking for what? Let's see. Transaction. Clear sky. Oh yeah. So much fucking traveling. What the fuck? Come on. Yo, this is annoying when this happens. Okay. Oh. No travel for me. Shit in here. Now we are overcumbered, friends. Fuck, something's wrong.
Now's the time to rise up. Use your brain and be smart. Keep your both feet on the counter, else you will fall apart. Yeah, that's the truth. I'm kicking it plain and simple. I'm not here to stop beefing. I'm here to elevate your mental. I remember way back in primary school. They said for you, but what you gonna do? You better figure it out soon. You gotta get a job, earn a living, and live life by the rules.
It's fucking great. I do.
And I will never be able to get you still with you. Now I'm 23 and I still don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. To contribute to society, so now I do my own thing. I'm a real MC, maybe one day I'll be blowing the fuck up. And you just watch if you don't believe it. I'm the one laughing last, laughing the hardest when you see it. When the moment is there, my peeps is like, oh yeah, so this goes out to all the hip hop heads everywhere. You gotta
Fuck it. So we have like 5 different PDA in this mod pack. It's really good.
Well, in the meantime, I'm working as hard as I can to get my career on track. The top of the stack is where it's at, bringing quality hip-hop form. You think I'm going too fast, but you were listening quick enough. What? Let's come to the show, see Babble, rip it up. Making all the kids ask, where can I get the stuff? My skills are ridiculous. I got a bust, I do this for me. Doing this to find inner peace, and that's why I find belief I'm writing rhymes on beats. Put my thoughts in these flows as the words roll from my pen and unfold. The bigger picture, can you see it? I'm explaining my horizon to the phone.
Здорово! Чего тебе стало больше, что работаешь? Не то уже. Не то.
I'm waiting for him to join. I mean the server, of course.
Привет!
We are lagging.
Cause my skills are unbelievable, busting these lyrical hits. Impossible for you to die. This, hey yo, watch me, I'm smart, and they be doing it for the love. They rap it too real, they wanna smoke me, trying to say I'm full of ignorance and nonsense. They better rise up.
Учти, проблемы с железом я устраняю на раз. Но кривые руки, хозяин, не правлю.
Station noted. Let's see. Yeah.
I like to welcome y'all to the Step Into the Cycle Posse Cut. 6 MCs deep. About to do it like this, yeah. About to bring you hip-hop realism like this. Check it out. I'm giving them numbers for the 2-1-2. In a barbarian manner, my steeds for frisbee. Them lyrics at you on the basis, sharp silver platter. I'm the capitating rapper. If you go to get the props, if you back my bomb, I'll make you choke up. Yeah, Adam's apple. From being flabbergasted, ha. My shit is obese. You anorexic, crushing your blackness. I bless sessions with flows like tsunamis hitting massive. Blow up your whole spot. Rich stairs, you have the magic.
Wow.
It's the blast up. With some
See
more
the target.
when you throw my boom bash in, I catch
work. Oh, what the fuck was that? How did I do that? Oh, no, she's in my face. Okay. Feeling. Alright, fine. That doesn't work. Something is wrong. What? Oh, they're battery shipping me.
Приветствую.
What's this fucking ID? Nice pistol. Bang, 6 rounds.
How can it all be so simple, man? We connect dots, collect dots like peacekeepers together. We reckon spots, not your average kid. I put in more work than metabolisms when it comes to rapping. Ever since I had a vision of scattering knowledge into the four winds. Let the sun of a gun shine when the rain's pouring. So take an umbrella along the ride. Simple one is the funky fella.
What is this fucking caliber 921? Am I tripping?
Only to find themselves slumping face down in the ocean of misery. When we step into the cipher, you and your hype men are getting jittery. We making moves, but on the bottom of a gum up for them see. Stepping in the cipher, touching the big steady.
Side.
Rocking the rhythm, with the house of banger, yo, we stand strong. Living in the art of up and down, you them know. Ready for rain when we buck shot. The nigga was superhero, could do us a jump, 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 bombs, so fucking them down with sick. Well, styles, I'm rocking, putting it, tucking it up, boom, boom, pow. You got hit by the hot potato that I drop a salmon in.
Scopes. Scope passivo. Attachment. Suppressor. I'll sell this one. Why was this bitch? Man? The shotgun, bro. I need a shotgun for sure.
who can catch a vibe, it goes beyond your comprehension. Yo, we drink 20, 40s, smoke 40 blunts, say 100 rhymes in a town like you once. Originality is the key, so don't front and act like you know the mic snatches bum rush. Yo, we drink 20, 40s and smoke 40 blunts, say 100 rhymes and act like you once.
Oh, what the fuck is not working? Shit, that's not good. Okay. Oh, fucking travel. What the fuck?
Just keep walking. We drink 20, 40s, smoke 40 blunts, say 100 rhymes in a town like you once. Originality is the key, so don't front and act like you know the mic snatches bum rush. You know we drink 20, 40s and smoke 40 blunts, say 100 rhymes and act like you once. Originality is the key, so don't front. The real MCs know what we mean. The mic snatches, rip it up.
I'll go here. Oh, the radiation is insane. And I don't have any fucking mask. Stupid me. What is going on? What the fuck are you inside? Are you kidding me? these. Whoa. I see your monkey ass. Blast him. Yeah, dude. Wait, my armor is fucked. 84. Shit. Oh no, music detection. That's really fucking sad. On YouTube, you have a music detection. I really okay.
Оружие-то опусти, а?
Of course, Vladик Torn. And where's my fucking rifle? That's a question. Here. Why? Why? Not. Hold on. Some shit. Then. More. No, that's waifu. Where the fuck have you been? Man. I repair all this damage, huh? No, that's bad. Hell. Oh my god, what the fuck is that, huh? I hate heights, just fuck. Oh. It's going down, gonna be hardcore. I don't have parachute. No, don't tell me this is it. Then up. Nice view. But for fuck's sake, where is your fucking stash, huh? Oh shit. Okay. Maybe outside. Oh no. Did I lose something? Let's see the fucking stash. Something is wrong. Over here. Axel. Okay. Radiation, you guys are crazy. The fuck is going on? Okay. Okay. What's that? Oh. Yeah, you drink Fanta, you get healed. Good. Can she carry this much? What the fuck? Fucking good. Fuck out of here. Transitions are so long. In the future, it's gonna be like 3 seconds. Okay, this is some weirdness right here. Okay, and he moved now. Okay, they did it. No, no, don't crash. Of how you can get inside certain buildings. It's really cool. Creepy. Shit, it's so detailed, bro. It's insane. Just like the building we're at. Wow, nice graphics and shit. Ran so well. Yeah, man, everything.
Куча народа сейчас прибежит с автоматом. Рванули мы через Дрижу за море. Полем к ближайшей мощи. Добежались.
Scenaries and ecologist. Interesting.
Слушай. Ну, и те из пулеметов потом, естественно. Сверху всякая шелуха, сыпятся щепки, шишки. Ну, сами понимаете. Ну, тут-то я Василию говорю. Спорим, я тебе морду набью с первого раза.
Oh. Going forever? Oh. Alright.
Короче, анекдот. Сидят два сталкера на берегу озера, один другому. И почему говорят, что радиация сильно влияет на человека? Я вот уже 5 лет как в зоне, но никаких изменений не заметил. А ты? Да я тоже, только чешуя чешется в последнее время чаще обычного. А?
Shit. RF receiver we have. So I need different gun, that's for sure.
Вот, пожалуй.
Oh no, it's actually freedom. Oh, we can't kill freedom. That city has... What? Okay, first I take care of this guy. Wow, this is nice. This is some really nice custom... Ah, it's a box actually. Fucking stash. Look at that. Oh, stop. No. This thing. 45, okay, 46. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, very close. Shit. Okay. Well, that's inside. Fuck. Discount.
Внимание!
Come on.
Смотреть! Внимание! Быстро! Собрались!
Oh, he's throwing grenade. Put this down.
Быть наготове! Смена магазина!
6, 8.
Спасите!
You're finished, bro.
Пацаны! Помогите!
Well, there is a trader here.
Я тебе вряд ли что интересное расскажу. Иди-ка ты лучше с главным беседуй. Ты рассказать чего хочешь?
Oh. Wow, what is this? Soyuz 919. Interesting.
Что за создание? Хуже зверей, ей-богу. Даже тут. Тут задницу друг другу каждую минуту прикрывать надо. А они...
Shit. Oh my god, where the fuck is the entrance here, huh? Must be shitting me. Yeah.
Все вещи пропали, куда же так?
Пожрать бы чего хорошего.
Вот такое.
Так ведь нету.
Случилось. Сказки.
Nice bar.
Вспомнил вот. Один сталкер другому говорит. На днях вот
Если
к долгу
нужно что,
заходил,
спрашивай
на
у
огонек.
главного.
И как? Ну как, должен остался, а потом к свободе заглянул. Ну и что? А мне там говорят, мужик свободен.
Да. Вот
Блин,
как
так не
грустно
смешно же.
происходит.
Here.
Тот уже товар пошел. Не тот. Неужто завязывать пора?
Ну, думаю, Глюк перепил спиртяги, пока позвонишь Астру. Такие, визуально все понимаешь, ну все как трамплин. И тебе грунт светлее, и на кромке приплюснут. Ветерком оттуда тянет.
Вот всегда бы
Листики
такая
легко
пруха
собрали.
была.
А
Это
дальше-то
если
что?
прикинуть.
Так, значит, присел, взял камушек, и навесил. Думаю, ща рванет.
3-4 таких похода, как вчера.
Камушек
если
спокойно
еще
упал на грунт, как будто
хабарник
там нет
уже.
никакой аномалии.
И
Упал и
всё.
все.
Завязываю с
Ну,
зоной
я в раз
нахрен.
вспотел. Чуйка подсказывает, что это особняк. На корточках тихонько подползаю.
Италия.
Камушки.
Вот дерьмо-то, а.
Рефлексы, мать его.
День коту под хвост катится. Ни хабара, никакого приварка.
Смог как мышь в комбезе.
Oh shit, you are shitting me.
Но моя сталкерская нутро говорит, сваливать надо. А я нет. Особняк. Надо разобраться.
А все-таки накоплю я на свой дом.
Okay, 20.
На колени поклал.
Think that Yep, same mission, I know.
Ладно, заработал.
Wow, it's insane. Look at that. Back. I must have seen it. Man, that looks awesome. And this is really good. Kino.
Энергетические сущности. Сочные. Типа новые люди.
Внимание, выдаем шутку юмора. Говорит знакомому остался. Что слышишь? Попаданий, бабла кинул, сколько скажешь. А то пацанов у всех Сталкер, обалдел? Это какой-то артефакт такой радиоактивный.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up and to take a break. We're gonna probably continue tomorrow. Yeah.